Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Open Day 2 Draft Number 1. Today we'll be competing in a best of 3 draft, trying to win at least 3 out of the 4 rounds. If we can do that, we will qualify for the Arena Open Day 2 Draft Number 2, where we could be competing with major cash prizes on the line. Without further ado, let's hop into the draft and see where the cards take us today. Alright, and here we are for our pack 1 pick 1. Unfortunately, a pretty weak pack here. Our rare is very narrow. We need to be triple black for it, and this is a pretty multicolored splashy kind of format. I do like to be 2 colors at the very least, where this is already a little difficult to cast, but there's a lot of like 2 color splash third going on, so I don't really want to start with a triple black rare. I don't think either of these uncommons are super premium, but I do like Jolene a bit better than Crom. Just don't love starting with a multicolored card right off the bat unless it is like bomb rare quality, so I might stay away from Jolene, which leads to the strongest monocolored cards. Patient Naturalist is some flexible potential, not really mana ramp, but it makes sure that you keep hitting your land drops by digging for one, and it could be fixing as well. It's probably my favorite monocolored card. Like Wolverine's fine, Fierce Retribution's fine, but I think Naturalist is best. It's Jolene or Naturalist here, and I'd rather stay a little more open. Grab the Naturalist. Not a great pack to start things off. Pick number 2, we see some better stuff for sure. Now the best monocolored card is just an actual removal spell here with Mystical Tether. These are at a premium in the format with how many bombs there are running around. Lost Jitte's probably fine as well. A little bit slow, but it does stack up a lot of +1/+1 counters potentially over time. Pretty flexible too, that's pretty interesting. I'm a little disappointed I haven't had a chance to play with this yet, because I have done like 50 drafts of the format or something. But because there's so many bonus sheets and mythic rares and all the bonus sheets, I still haven't played with or against this card at all to really know for sure. I mean, it looks fine, but generally equipment haven't been insane anyway, even if they do look pretty good. I think I still just go with the Mystical Tether here, honestly. But it could be the Lost Jitte. I don't think there's anything else in the pack that great. Show-off's really fun for Constructed, but not something you can pull off and draft that often. Okay, pick 3. Bovine Intervention's very mediocre removal because you're giving your opponent something back. These black spells are all very filler. The blue's filler, the red's filler. There's a decent filler white creature and a decent filler green creature, or we can take like a desert dual land here. I do like the giant beaver a good amount. I think a 4/4 vigilance is just really hard to beat on board. It's the kind of card that's going to prompt a combat trick or removal spell to get around. Otherwise, it's pretty constantly attacking in while holding your opponent off of their own attacks. I think we just go for beaver here. It's been some pretty weak packs though. In terms of the card quality available in Outlaws of Thunder Junction so far, I'm a little disappointed with our start. In most formats, I'd say this is fine, but again, this is a set where you can open like 4 or 5 rares in your pack, so very, very medium kind of start here. All right, pick 4. Now we have Lassoed by the Law still around. That is excellent removal. Removal plus a 1/1 mercenary. The one thing I don't like about this is because it is best of 3, if our removal is all going to be white removal like Mystical Tether, Lassoed by the Law, that does get worse in best of 3, where any opponent that's on green can easily side in some enchantment removal and stuff like that. That could be an issue. I still think Lassoed by the Law is probably a little bit better than Primal Command, although Primal Command does play fine in the format because you can use this to blow up their best non-creature permanent and tutor for your best bomb, put it into your hand at the same time. It's a lot of mana. I still think I would just prefer grabbing great removal like Lassoed by the Law, but I think those are the best options out of the pack. Pick number 5. Now we have a Snakeskin Veil, which is a great way to protect basically anything in your green decks. That's pretty fine. Steer Clear is pretty mediocre removal. When we already have Tether and Lassoed by the Law, I'm not that high on that. Savage Smash obviously would be pushing into another color. That's probably the best off-color card here, though. Be pushing green-red with Smash. Some mediocre fixing, but we're pure green-white right now. We don't really need the mediocre fixing. I'd probably take premium fixing, like maybe a duel over a Snakeskin Veil or something, but I think it's just Snakeskin Veil for us. All right, pick number 6. Decent red card with a Wolverine, but we have decent on-color filler like Sentry, Keykeeper, and Grizzly. So, I mean, these are tied in quality with the best off-color cards, so we're happy to stay where we're at right now. Sentry's played better in this format than these kind of cards have in the past because you have these giant beaver-style commons pretty often. Also, like Snakeskin Veil turns one of your 3-power creatures into a 4-power creature, so it can keep sending in. The Grizzly has played well too, though, just because being a mount is a good card type, especially in green-white, we could have mount synergies. And this makes any future Sentries we manage to get better. I think I'm going to go Grizzly over the Sentry, but that one is quite close. Pick 7. Now we basically have to take something off color because Wingsmith is very mediocre filler. There's just not enough good plot cards really in the format, especially in green-white, to take a turn off to give this thing flying. That is such a huge tempo swing that it's just kind of a dirtily 2-4. Would we just speculate on a desert here? Just in case of some off-color opens, or we try to splash in an Eartha Joe. Eartha Joe can be really powerful with a lot of mercenaries for activated abilities, but I still think I'd rather take the desert here. Pick 8. Tumbleweed Rising can be fine with cheap high-power creatures like Drover Grizzly or like temporary buffs that you can get on some of the saddle cards. Bighorn's pretty fine too. Forlorn Flats gives us some black fixing if we open up a great black rare here. Go green, white, black. Like the desert, like the rising, like the bighorn. I'm gonna go for the desert here. Get some more fixing and be open to what we open. Now we can take Sterling Hound here because we already have 2 removal spells between Tether and Lassoed. I don't think we need the purely defensive removal spell of Ariette's Lullaby. Pick 10. Bandit's Hall can be good for a more controlling deck, but that's not really what green-white is doing. We're just not doing a lot of crime. Not targeting our opponent's cards. Map the Frontier is really slow. Ramp, so I'll just take the random cheap creature of the Nurturing Pixie. Let's just cut white here. And this is actually sideboard material right here. If our opponent is a white deck with a bunch of enchantment-based removal, Requisition Raid can absolutely come in out of the sideboard. So that was not a bad late pickup at all. Alright, pack 2, pick 1. Unplayable rare, and there's only 1 rare in the pack. The uncommons are also very narrow and pretty weak, and off of what we're doing here. Yeah, this is a pretty massive bummer of a pack. We have Cactarantula, Varmint, and Keykeeper, basically. Alright. Unfortunate pack to open up. Even if we don't play black, we can play Forlorn Flats just towards the Cactarantula, and I do think this is just a really good top-end card in general. Beefy creature, it blocks flyers, and whenever your opponent kills it, with their removal, you draw a card back out of it. I'm going to take Cactarantula pretty highly here. Pack 2, pick 2. We've got a Bristlepack Sentry. We've got to Take Up the Shield. Don't like Rustler Rampage as much as Take Up the Shield. I think the Take Up the Shield is just more powerful for its mana cost. Kellen is interesting, but not actually that powerful as a splash, because again, we're not really plotting at all in this deck, so we're not casting spells from outside our hand, so we would just be splashing in a 3/3 flying lifelink, which is like good, but probably not quite worth a splash. So it's really just Sentry or Take Up the Shield. I think Take Up the Shield's a much better card, but since we have no 2-mana creatures right now, Sentry might be the better card for our mana curve, for our deck in general. I'm going to take the Bristlepack Sentry. Looks like a really weird pick, but I don't want to be left with a deck with nothing to cast turn 2. Really don't want to have to just run double Nurturing Pixie for our cheap plays. Pick 3, we do have a Drover Grizzly and a Giant Beaver towards the Tumbleweed Rising now, and the other option is Stagecoach Security up at the top end, which is solid, but green has a lot of great top-end commons like Giant Beaver and Cactarantula, so it's slightly more filler up there. Kind of like Tumbleweed Rising here. There's another Eartha Joe for splashing that in. We do have a black source to like splash in a Vault Plunder for value, but again, these aren't like premium reasons to splash. Just take the Tumbleweed Rising. Another Lassoed by the Law. That's pretty exciting. It's also our first Burrow Fiend. This is a really good 2-mana play, and it works well with Tumbleweed Rising, because it's one of these kind of cards that gets a huge temporary buff, and then boom, we get a permanent large creature out of it. Burrow Fiend is really tempting here, but I'm also excited to see pick 4 Lassoed by the Law. That's a good sign for just being in white in general. God, that is a hard pick. These are both so good for their respective mana cost, for their respective roles in the deck. I'm just going to go all removal. I'm going to take another Lasso here. No! Alright, well, when you're disappointed that your colors are this open. Really just disappointed I didn't take the 2-drop, because, I mean, the Burrow Fiend would certainly be better than a 3rd Lassoed by the Law. I still think a 3rd Lassoed by the Law is better than like a second Cactarantula or like a 3 or 4 mana creature. But if there was a premium 2-mana creature like Burrow Fiend again, we would absolutely take that this time. Another Lasso it is. Really sad about the Burrow Fiend versus Lasso gamble on that pick 4. Just didn't end in our favor. Stagecoach. Actually, Badlands Revival off the splash looks pretty great. It's a very good 2-for-1 late game. Reanimate your biggest creature in grave and pick up another one. We could plot this out on turn 2 so that it's sort of a turn 2 play. Very filler one, but gives us something else. There we go. There's a Sterling Keykeeper. Join the party. We need some 2-mana creatures. Some more sideboard options. Although I don't see myself siding in a combat trick. I could absolutely see myself sideboarding in Requisition Raid, though. I don't think these are ever going to make the cut. Let's grab the uncommon. Maybe there's a weird universe where we sideboard in an Armored Armadillo. I guess we need 23 non-lands in the main deck, so we'll put that in for now, but that'll be one of the first cuts for sure. Ooh, Bighorn this late is pretty nice for us. I'm actually perfectly happy to run this. Certainly more filler than the Giant Beaver, but it's got a solid saddle ability as well, even if it is a bit small for the mana cost. Alright, pack 3. Let's get a bomb. Nope. Classic. We're going to be a bombless deck in the super bomby format, and that's got me worried. Well, there's not much we could have done about it in this pod. I think we've ended up in a really solid, pretty open color pair. We didn't really see any bombs. We saw like rares, but not bombs. You know, like a primal command to 2-drop a Cactarantula, because we don't have any bomb rares. I guess I just take Conduit Pylons here. I'm not splashing in a 2-drop like Vadmir. I'm not playing a Steer Clear. I'm not splashing a Void Rend. We have good on-color removal. Yeah, this is weird. I mean, we could take Freeze Strider Commando over Pylons, but I'll grab the Pylons. Pack 3, pick 2. Trained Erranx is an excellent aggressive 2-mana creature. This is a really good pack for us. There's the Erranx that we would really like. There's the Spinewoods Paladin that's excellent higher up on the mana curve. Bristlepack Sentry's not bad in this deck. Trash the Town is a flexible trick. Could try to splash at a Magda, but we're not committing that many crimes, so they're not even good in this deck. Let's take the Erranx, I think. Get the small creatures over the big creatures first, grab those later. Not that I think we wheel the Paladin, but there's enough good green in this pack. We might get back a Bristlepack or a Trash the Town or something. Okay, alright. Yeah, I'm loving our color pair, that's for sure. There's still a Paladin, a Cactarantula, and a Take Up the Shield. Pretty excellent. I don't know if we've got much room for more combat tricks when we have Snakeskin Veil and 4 hard removal spells, 3 lassos, and a tether. So we don't have a lot of non-creature room in this deck. I'll just take like a Paladin or a Cactarantula here. Double Desert, I kind of feel like Paladin's maybe slightly better when we only have 2 deserts in the deck right now. Although the flexibility of casting it for 4 doesn't matter too much, because we've got some good 4-drops. You know what? I'm still taking the Cactus. Really like that it cashes us out if it gets targeted by removal. Now a Trained Erranx is very good. Prosperity Tycoon's nice for a 4-drop as well. The fact that it gives it Indestructible is pretty necessary, because only 2 toughness on a 4-mana card is quite bad. But spitting out the Mercenary is what tries to make up for it. It's an interesting option here, but I think I'm going to still go with the Trained Erranx. Pick 5. We've got a Festering Gulch to help with the Badlands Revival Splash and make the double Cactarantula cheaper a little bit more often. I'm slightly sad to take this here because there's a Prairie Dog, which I like a lot. We're not really trying to skip casting a spell on any turn, but the fact that anytime you do, you get a nice little bonus on this thing is quite nice. Prairie Dog plays a lot better than it looks. So I'm slightly sad to pass it up, but I think this is worth it with a Black Splash and double Cactarantula. Holy Cow, I'll take the Gulch over Holy Cow, but that's also a decent card. It's really the Prairie Dog versus the Gulch. That's the big concern for me there. I don't think we have enough Enter the Battlefield effects to care about another round. I think very few decks do. I guess another Sheriff. Not that that's particularly likely to make the cut. We're getting enough good 2-mana cards, we might even end up cutting the first. I'm just not going to play an Armadillo or a Gold Pan. I mean, there's no world in which I'm playing 2 Sheriff of Safe Passage, so I'll take the Gold Pan just in case some really weird stuff happens mana-wise. Alright, I really like this pack again. Trained Erranx and Snakeskin Veil and Dance of the Tumbleweeds and Prosperity Tycoon. I love the flexibility of the dance ramping into a Cactarantula or being a massive finisher late. It also fixes the colors towards our Black Splash. We've got double Erranx, so I'm not sad to pass up the third. The one thing I am sad to pass up on is maybe the Prosperity Tycoon on that pick. Pick 8, there's the Drover Grizzly, the Prairie Dog. I think Prairie Dog is definitely better than Drover Grizzly, but with the Tumbleweed Rising, I kind of like the Grizzly, but we could just cut Tumbleweed Rising, honestly. We've got enough good creatures at this point. We can just play a standard deck. Every single pick out of this last pack has just been like a good option for us. So that was a really, really good pack to wrap things up, and I'm happy to be in this color pair. Grab a Jolene. I don't think we're splashing, but I'm not going to like throw in a boombox when I've got Tether, Triple Lasso. We might throw in a Lullaby when we're on the draw against something really aggressive. Alright, well I guess this is the deck, right? This is 23 non-lands, 3 lands. I do have a couple filler creatures in here. If we have a high enough creature count, we can swap out for Ear Clear. We've definitely got enough mounts for that. 16 creatures, 7 non-creatures. It's a perfectly fine count. I could swap a creature for a Tumbleweed Rising. That's basically another creature. Gold Pan's another option. I don't really like it much here, but if there's really bad, really filler creatures, we've got a few options to swap around. And there kind of are. There's an Armored Armadillo being super bad. I don't like Nurturing Pixie too much either, but gotta put something in here. Yeah. I mean, very basic, very average looking deck here, but I don't see how we could have ended up with anything much better in this draft pod. Not unhappy with what we ended up with out of what we saw. The double Pixie could be cute when we have 4 enter the battlefield removal spells, so if we use any of these 4 on a creature token and then we pick one up with a Pixie later, that's going to be like potentially backbreaking. Turning those into 2-for-1 removal. So I'll still keep the little Pixie combo, but we drop the Armadillo to throw in one of these. I think this is a fine Tumbleweed Rising deck. We've got enough 2-mana creatures to pretty consistently get like a 2-mana 3/3 out of Tumbleweed Rising at worst. You know, 3-power 2-mana creatures. We got 4-power stuff later, 6-power. Yeah, and that way we've basically just cut a creature for a creature. We still have 4 removal spells with Tether, Triple Lasso. Don't think we need the steer clear, but I could play it over like a Sterling Hound or something here. But I'm kind of cool with this as the build. How's that mana base looking? We've got a Forlorn Flats, we've got a Festering Gulch, we've got a Conduit Pylons. That's 3 black sources without even playing a land that isn't one of our 2 main colors, so I kind of just don't want to play the Swamp. We don't have anything in the deck that requires us to have a basic black source. We have one way to search for a land, and that searches for a desert specifically, so that can grab either duel and fix us for the black mana for the revival. The Naturalist as well doesn't tutor for something specific, so it doesn't care whether it's basic or not. So I'm going to drop the Swamp here so we can have a good count on both of our main colors. We have 12 white cards, 10 green. Got a lot of cheap white creatures. So we want that white pretty badly, but green as well can give us fixing with Dance of the Tumbleweeds or help guarantee land drops with Patient Naturalist. So I feel like both colors are close to equally important. White's definitely slightly more important, but not enough, I think, to go for an odd mana base here. I think we just go 8-8 split, which is basically a 9-9 split potentially with the Pylons. Although, again, we have to play off-curve for Conduit Pylons, which is rough, but I think this mana base looks pretty good to me, and we'll call it a deck here. Alright, here's a look at our final deck list for today. We're on a green-white, just a very average beatdown kind of deck here. Not a lot of really fancy stuff going on, no crazy synergies or anything, but we have a good amount of removal, a good amount of solid creatures at their mana costs, and a good amount of filler, of course. So we've got like Trained Errances, Prairie Dog for like really good creatures to curve out with, into potentially Giant Beavers and Cactarantulas at the top of the curve. We could also draw some awkward hands where we have Nurturing Pixies with nothing to pick up, Sheriff of Safe Passage with a low creature count, a Sterling Hound just sitting around. So there's definitely a bit of variance in this deck. It was a tough draft pod, as you're going to experience a lot during the Arena Open Day 2 events, but pretty happy with the color pair we ended up with. We got past plenty of excellent removal and solid creatures throughout the draft to have triple Lassoed by the Law and Mystical Tether. We've also got some flexible cards like Dance the Tumbleweeds, ramping into the Cactarantula or fixing for Badlands Revival, but also being a great top deck in the late game, turning into a gigantic elemental. There's a lot of very solid stuff going on in this deck, even if we didn't really manage to open up or get past any bombs, which is one of the big aspects of this format. So that is probably the weakest aspect of the deck, something that we didn't really have any control over, which is we don't have any bomb rares, really. We're just playing a bunch of solid commons and uncommons, so fingers crossed here for sure, but hopefully we get into some good matchups and maybe get to make it into draft number 2, but we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are for round 1 on the play. We've got Erranx into Sheriff into Beaver. Sheriff would be a 3-mana 2-2 in this hand, which is quite bad, so we might just plot it so that at least it'll be a 3-3 when we cast it on turn 4. Do you like the Mystical Tether as a draw, especially if our opponent plays a very good 2-drop, and we'll just cast Tether instead? They don't play a very good 2-drop though, so we can cast Pixie or Sheriff. This is saddle 2. I guess, I mean, since I have the Pixie now, I can hardcast the Sheriff, so we can saddle and start scrying. And if we manage to have a ton of creatures out late game, we can re-pick up the Sheriff with the Nurturing Pixie to recast it and actually make it pretty big. So that's a nice little synergy. So there's our opponent's Mystical Tether for the Erranx. Fair enough. We just drop a 4-4 on them here. Wanted Griffin. Alright, 3-2 does not pair well against our 4-4. Pairs fine against the 2-2, and if we tether it away, then we stop it from getting the death trigger as well, which is nice. So I don't hate Mystical Tethering here. The alternative is to Dance of the Tumbleweeds to set up the Cactarantula as the play next turn, which is also pretty good. Yeah, I really don't mind that, I think. Could also pixie back the sheriff in the same turn if I want to do that, which I don't hate. Give me a 2/2 flyer to block the 3/2 flyer. I don't love pixieing back the sheriff either, though, because I could just saddle up the beaver, and it'll still be just as big. Then I don't have to spend mana on recasting sheriff. Yeah, I mean, sheriff could be bigger later, but if I don't pick it up, I can just saddle up the pixie instead. And have all these stats just immediately on board for a good tempo swing. Alright, Stagecoach security is A-okay. The only annoying part of that is that they get vigilance, really. Because I can tether that away now to keep the beaver coming in. And that feels like the line, especially drawing a 2-drop like Prairie Dog here. So I can go Prairie Dog and tether, then I can saddle up the beaver, buffing my flyer, sending in a 2/2 on the ground. They can get a replacement 1/1 on the ground, but that's not going to deal with the 3/3 flyer coming at them. Take it all, go down to 4 life. Another Wanted Griffin and an Omenport Vigilante, so they can block 3 of our creatures. They still lose 2 of their creatures to kill our 1 giant beaver. One of which has to be a flyer, so then Nurturing Pixie's gonna be big enough to swing in the next turn. Although if I attack with everybody, they can't afford to double block the giant beaver. Then they get to kill Nurturing Pixie, Prairie Dog, and Sheriff, end up with 2 1/1s against a 4/4 Vigilance and a 6/5. That feels decent. If I saddle up just the Pixie onto the beaver, and then send everybody else in, if they want to kill beaver, they still have to double block that, and they have to lose all of their creatures. I feel like that feels pretty good, actually. Would be saddle up here, attack all. And they still have to lose 1 Wanted Griffin no matter what. 2 if they want to kill the beaver. So this still makes sure that the Nurturing Pixie is just the winner in the sky. All right, there's the concession. We start round 1 off 1-0. What did we see here? Well, I love our exile removal here. They're in green-white, though, so they can sideboard in enchantment removal. Speaking of, we can sideboard in enchantment removal. We saw 1 enchantment, though. Luckily, Requisition Raid does have a backup plan, right? Like, if we draw this when they haven't drawn their mystical tether, we can still just get a +1/+1 counter on all our creatures, which is not very good to spend an entire card just to put a counter on all your creatures. Because usually that's like 2, maybe 3 +1/+1 counters. So it's not a very good backup plan, but it will still do something if we draw this when they haven't drawn tether. So it's better than just like a pure naturalized siding in. What do we side out here, though, in this matchup? Exile removal, maybe Badlands Revival? Just cut black? They had a lot of good blockers on the ground. But I mean, nothing seems terrible here. I guess Tumbleweed Rising, you know, like a big token creature can get killed by Mystical Tether and then we can't even get it back. So I could just swap like a Tumbleweed Rising for a Requisition Raid. A Requisition Raid. Apparently. Yeah, I don't really see a huge need to do anything else here. On the draw, on the defensive against green-white, which can be an aggressive color pair, it might be fine to ditch one Lasso for one Ariet's Lullaby, which is great defensive removal if we're getting beaten down. Steer Clear is as well. So like we can, if we find them to be really aggressive, go for cheaper defensive removal spells, but they didn't really seem that way. They played 1/2 drop and then a couple 4s. I'm just going to go Tumbleweed Rising for Requisition Raid, just run one copy as we head into game 2. I mean, I guess there is also, since we're on the draw, you can like cut a land. You know, you're always going to draw that extra card towards one. That would have been a reasonable option too. Just cut a land for a Requisition Raid instead of the whatever I cut. I already forgot. My brain already deleted the information. We are all in on focusing up on this game. Flooding a little bit, but we've got a good 6 mana play, so it's not the end of the world yet. Ooh, there's a Lasso. All right. Offer the trade here while we still can, because we can't trade on blocks. Plus we get the life gain to counteract the damage they'll be dealing here. Ooh. That was not a very good Patient Naturalist hit. We milled our only graveyard recursion alongside Cactarantula. And we didn't hit a land, that's the most important part. Alright, so they do have just Erranks into Wanted Griffin here. Lasso by the Law still looking like an excellent card against Wanted Griffins. Sterling Hound for the draw. I believe we're just gonna lasso things up here. Don't really need to hold up blocks. Thanks to our life gain, we're outracing them right now. Plus, if they don't play something to saddle up the Erranks, we have the blocker for the first striker. We might dance to the Tumbleweeds a turn early off of the treasure token. Turn the treasure into a permanent mana. Obviously, the only flaw with that is that now the elemental it makes is going to be even smaller. Alright, so Pariah just means they basically just killed Prairie Dog, right? Dealt to Enchanted Creature instead, yeah. So if we attack in with anything, they just let it through and the damage is dealt to the Prairie Dog. I could wait on Requisition Raid here, but that could take forever. It could be the bottom card. It's a 1 out of 25 chance. So I feel like it's better to just send in the Prairie Dog and get this Pariah out of the way. And we just dance to the Tumbleweeds and shoot them for 1. I could gain 1 more life by mercenarying up the Prairie Dog, but I don't think that's necessary. That was the cutest, saddest Prairie Dog death animation I think I could have possibly seen here. You know what? 2 creatures over the 1/5/5 is probably not bad either. And then it gets to be a... or the 1/6/6, then it gets to be a 7/7 next turn. Yeah, this seems fine. This is probably a better use of the mana, because then our Tumbleweed's bigger. And we get to set up our draws immediately. Alright, well, I don't know what our opponent's drawing, but it doesn't look great. I've got Mystical Tether at instant speed, which is definitely good. Saddle 2, not Saddle 1. Bummer. Oh, which creature would I rather trade into the Erranks? The higher toughness or the higher power? Probably the higher toughness. Because we're definitely on the aggressive here. I probably should have danced pre-combat. I guess it doesn't matter. It matters for the scry, but the problem is if we do it pre-combat, we don't have Mystical Tether up. We can cast this during combat as 5 mana instead of 3, so it's really nice to have the mana open in case of something weird. If they like try to take up the shield, that'd be pretty big. Yeah, so having Tether against take up the shield feels pretty dang nice. Unless they also have Snakeskin Veil. Alright, cool. Yeah, take up the shield would have been huge there, because not only do they keep their blocker and kill ours, but they gain a bunch of life to prolong this game a bit. Holy cow! My 1/1's dead. Well, R.I.P. my little friend. Oh, no, they trade into the Eric's. That is fair, they are taking a lot of damage. Always play your land before your Dance of the Tumbleweeds. That makes it slightly bigger. There's our desert. Ping. They need a board wipe, or they've gone bust here pretty much. Enchantment will be good. They're looking at our enchantments. Oh god, yeah. Pest Infestation's disgusting. That is one of the best rares in the entire format. They have 10 power over there, but they only kill our 8/8 by blocking with both of the 3 power creatures, because if they just block it with 4 1/1s and 1 3 power creature, that's 7 damage. So they have to lose both of their 3 power creatures and a few 1/1s to kill it. They're probably just gonna chump it turn after turn, right? Feels like it. I just don't think... I don't know how we beat Pest Infestation. We need them to draw dead for the rest of the game. And if it goes to game 3, we need them to just not draw Pest Infestation. This card is really dumb. So you get X 1/1s that gain you a life every time they chump 2. There's the Requisition raid. But they haven't played any enchantment removal, so it doesn't actually kill anything right now. I can get a +1/+1 counter on my whole board, which doesn't matter too much, because a 3/4, they go 3/4 and 1/1 there, and I trade into a 1/1. A 4/3, they could put a 3/1 there. I guess I could raid for +1/+1 counters on my board and then Mercenary up the Naturalist to make that a 4/4 attacker. They have to double block like this, or there. I guess. I mean, they have all spells in their hand. Let's try to keep the pressure on as best as we can. Sterling Hound for trained Erranks. Naturalist kills the supplier, and they chump the 9/9 with a 1/1. Just work our way through all these 1/1s, so if they don't have removal, maybe the 9/9 gets to kill them. Okay, go to 3. That's something. It's an Outlaw medic, that's more life gain and card draw. Somewhat bold attack here. Depends on if they have another creature post-combat. Looks like they do, yep. Summoning sick, but still. It's still block. I mean, it's a crew too, so it can't block super well. 2/2 does not attack in well. They double block with a 1/3 lifelink and a 1/1. Or they crew the homestead and block there. Yeah, we just force some chumps. Drop a 3/3 blocker. I probably shouldn't have buffed Naturalist, because I don't think the extra power is going to matter here. No matter how they block. But having another 2/2 blocker could matter if they try to like swing back for lethal. We're at 12 though, so it'd be a big swing. They're hitting for 7 in the sky. Maybe 4 on the ground. If they've got another creature to crew the homestead. Well, I like Requisition Raid in this matchup. We've seen Mobile Homestead as well now. They have a Tether and a Homestead and a Pariah. 3 cards we could blow up. Didn't line up perfectly this game, but had we waited on it a turn, it would have been slightly... would have killed slightly more stuff, but then they wouldn't have been under the pressure that they were. There's Betrayal at the Vault for double removal, which is a pretty big bummer. Oh, that's a really bold attack. If we top deck removal, they're dead. Oh my god. Okay, thank you, Arena. There's the concession. I'm over here trying to think about how we sideboard here to have a better shot against their deck. To try to outbeat the Pest Infestation, and then they just attack slightly too aggressively and we lasso it up. All right. Well, slightly scary there from the Pest Infestation onward this game. Actually very scary from that turn on. But to find top deck lethal to fight our way through round 1. We are 1-0 heading into round number 2. Here we are starting off round 2 on the draw. We've got a 3/3 defender and a 3/3 non-defender, and 2 excellent removal spells. This hand looks pretty decent defensively. It is a 2-lander, but we're on the draw. We get the first draw step, as well as every other draw step, to work towards our mana. So I think this looks like a good hand on the draw, on the defensive. At the very least, a reasonable hand. Playing against green-red for now. The Nurturing Pixie Lassoed by the Law combo could be good in this matchup. There's a couple strong token producers out of green. The best one being the Dance of the Tumbleweeds, but Tumbleweed Rising does see occasional play, as you can tell by our deck. Okay. I think we probably want to hold off on the Pixie for these double lassos, see if we can get some action going there. So we plot a Tumbleweed Rising. So next turn we play 2 4/4s? Or is it better to just play 1 3/3 this turn? It's probably better to play 2 4/4s next turn. Bridled Bighorn. They're tapped out of having any removal, so if they attack with Townsfolk, I'll take the trade with the Sentry there. Because we'll still get 2 4/4s. If they weren't tapped out of removal, you always have to be concerned that your opponent's going to kill your biggest creature in response to the Tumbleweed Rising. But that was just not the case here, so we're good. Our opponent is green, white, and red. There's the Miriam to go with the Bighorn, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, we've got good blocks set up. We're fine. 2-mana combat tricks out of green and red. I mean, they kill one of our creatures here. If I block like this and they have the first strike trick, they can win the combat. They don't get to kill both of our creatures, but they get to keep the Bighorn, which is a problem. I really don't think the first strike trick is particularly good or popular, though. Out of just double green, I would expect just like a Snakeskin Veil, where this is our best block. That way we get to keep Giant Beaver. Yeah, I mean, the only way this goes wrong is if there's an uncommon combat trick I'm not thinking of, or they have the red common that gives first strike. But the only way to play around the red first strike common is to triple block and lose Giant Beaver, which is a way worse block if they don't have a combat trick. Okay, cool. I guess there's probably some kind of uncommon burn spell that costs 2 or less, but the common is 3 mana to deal 4 to a creature, so it couldn't have been that. Okay, they've got the mobile homestead now, so even if I lasso the townsfolk, they can crew the homestead to double block the beaver this turn. Slightly annoying. And with a nurturing pixie in hand, I think we absolutely lasso the townsfolk right now. If I had one more mana, I'd probably just Cactarantula, but clearing out a townsfolk seems decent. Or the Miriam, honestly. The homestead is a vehicle to keep getting counters on, which is a problem. But I think I want to start getting aggressive myself, and I have double lasso. So I can like lasso the Miriam later. And if they want to double block Giant Beaver to kill it, I think that's fine. Because then they don't have a vehicle to keep getting counters on with their Miriam. So the sheep's going there. Question is if the sheep is going to get backed up by an RV or not. And I like getting our counter onto the sentry here, so even by itself the sentry doesn't have defender anymore for the rest of this game. A change of plans from our opponent. They grew a heart. They're not going to sacrifice the sheep just to stop 4 damage. So 4 damage to our opponent it is. And a Miriam would have been really sick in our deck. We've got the Beaver, the Bighorn, double Erynx. We have the 3 mana 4/2 mount as well. The jealousy is growing. The deadly sins arise within me. Alright, they're going to get that counter on the homestead. Flip the top card as well. If it's a land, they'll get it into play. Dang, well, it's pretty good for them. I don't think we can really block against 4 open mana. Doesn't seem like they have a trick, because that went pretty fast. But if they did, it would be miserable. Plus our block isn't even that good without a trick. They're just going to post-combat Primal Knight, sure. Tumbleweed Rising alongside it. Not great, but that gives us the Lassoed by the Law Nurturing Pixie combo. Which is probably the play for the turn. Does mean we're going to get hit by a large homestead next turn. But then we can top deck a Plains. We can pixie up the lasso that's hitting a token. Kind of big. Yeah, Homestead is going to keep getting bigger, but the 5/5's already bigger than the Homestead, plus exiling a token means we can pick up the lasso without losing anything. Excuse me. I'm breathing down the wrong tube. So any land off the top still gives us Cactarantula, which is big enough to trade into Homestead on its next attack. No land on the top for our opponent this time. Abounding Felidar, though. Uh-oh. That is not the white source. To recast a lasso right now. Oh, no. So they're just going to put a +1/+1 counter on the whole board and gain a bunch of life this turn. Yeah, and that's obviously quite bad. Also a 4/7 to completely hold off our attacks. Alright, so like a single copy of like Take Up the Shield or something at this point is like game ending. If we try to block to kill the Felidar. Because then that's just like wipe half our board, gain 5 life. Keep Felidar on board. I don't know that we play around it, because they definitely haven't had it in their hand. They would need to have top decked it by now. In the last couple turns. I think they've had solid trick opportunities earlier. This looks like more removal, maybe? Just checking over the board state. Yep, well, that's a good draw. Yep, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Big yikes, good grief. I mean, yeah, now if they have a Take Up the Shield, even if we don't block, we can't win. Even if we go chomp chomp, they're at 17, and a Take Up the Shield at any point is going to put them up to like 8 life. Yeah, we have to hope they have like nothing here at this point. If we're going to have any chance of steering this ship back around. So we got to just take some risky plays. All right, Steer Clear works too. That's another one of those cards where it's like, well, we lose regardless then. I go chump chump with 2 creatures left and they have removal in hand for one of them on a future swing. Yep, just too much pressure from opponent on the play here. Exile 1 card, block another. They still attack for lethal. Even with the land, I can't bad land survival. I just block 1 card with Catarantula. Yeah, our best play is Lasso by the Law, and that does not save us. So we're on to game 2. Hopefully under a little less pressure this time. So they've got a great artifact, but we only saw 1. They are green-white, which could mean enchantment-based removal, where Requisition Raid can get better. So I'm once again going to be pretty okay with running the first copy of it. We are on the play here, so I don't really want to throw in Lullaby. Maybe a Steer Clear over a Lasso seems fine, just to kill premium cheap creatures like Miriam. Although Miriam literally never got into combat, so never mind. Yeah, no, Miriam's not going to get answered by a Steer Clear if Miriam just keeps saddling and crewing. So that doesn't really make sense, but I guess Lullaby would work against the Miriam, so that's an option. We want to lower the curve of our removal. But we're just naturally going to be running removal quicker this game because we're going to be on the play. We'll have the removal a turn sooner than we did this time. So I don't really think we need to change that much. I think if we make it to game 3 where we're on the draw again, we'll definitely consider lowering the curve of our removal spells. I'll probably just drop the Sheriff. That's pretty mediocre. I don't want to drop a land on the play. drop the sheriff for requisition raid and head into game 2. Well, nothing till turn 4. We have both of our main colors, but we also have our only splash card in the hand already. Snakeskin Veil doesn't do anything until we play something. And that nothing till turn 4 is really, really bad. Right, because even turn 4, it's just removal. It's not any threats of our own. I think I have the mulligan here, which is so awkward. I always kind of hate mulliganing hands that already have decent mana, but like if we can't do anything till that late in the game, usually means we are going to fall quite a bit behind by then anyway. Okay, this is worse mana, but slightly more to do early. Any land gives us a Sterling Hound, and the Dance of the Tumbleweeds ramps into the Cactarantula. So any land gets us to Sterling Hound, which then tries to find the green source. We mill anything that isn't a green source that we can dance. I don't like this, but mulliganing down to 5 is pretty bad on your win rate, and anything below 5 is a complete death sentence. So if we mulligan, we have to keep whatever it is. This is probably slightly better than a full gamble on the mull to 5. It's still a gamble, but we're stuck with a gamble either way here. This time it's the gamble. Try to win 1 coin flip in the first 2. It's like 45% of our cards are lands. There we go. We won that 1 coin flip. Unfortunately on the defensive, though, because they had a 2-drop here. We do Surveil into the Forest for the Dance of the Tumbleweeds next turn, for the Cactarantula the turn after that. Alright, we're in this game officially, as much as we can be. We'll see how good their mulligan ended up. Erranx Miriam, okay, we're not in this game. I lied. They already have a 4/2 first striker for the rest of the game, even if I lasso Miriam next turn, which I am going to do. An ankle biter. Don't mind the ankle biter, at least. It's really not that bad for me, but the ankle biter does mean literally any creature from our opponent, and the Erranx is first strike, so maybe we send into trade into ankle biter rather than holding back, because if I hold back, I'm not going to block anyway. I don't know. Sending in doesn't really accomplish anything either. I just trade into an ankle biter. So let's keep the Sterling Hound around for later. Wow. All right. Our opponent is us, but better. Jesus Christ. Double Miriam, double Erranx off the mulligan. And if I don't tether Miriam, then either one of these Erranx just snowballs into winning the game. If I do tether Miriam, I have to deal with a 5-power first striker coming in every turn still. There's really just no good line. Just deal with Miriam and hope to get a 6/6 off Dance of the Tumbleweeds if we can top deck a land. Or I guess a 7/7. Oh my goodness. Oh my damn. Oh my goodness. They're going ham. We're so dead. I mean, this just was not a game of Magic. In the slightest. There's just rock, paper, scissors, and we chose rock. Got absolutely papered. It's not the land we need to actually make a 6/6. So I can make a 5/5 and not search for land. Then I still don't block this. 5/5 holds these off at least, I guess. Something. Oh. I really don't think there's anything better we can do at this point. If we're not just slamming power on the board, we're literally instantly dead. So yeah, that's really disappointing. But I have to like chump block with a Sterling Hound. I mean, I guess I could double block. If the only thing they send in is the first striking 5/3, I can double block and finally kill it. But I'm assuming they're going to send in, like... Well... No, I mean, if they top deck just a land here, I guess they probably do have to let me kill something on the attack. Alright. Scry to the tops, the next draw's good. That's a terrible auto tap. That was the only incorrect way you could possibly tap Mana Arena. It wanted to spend double white here. Well, that's the only way to do it way wrong. Alright, let's see what they top decked. Just had it on top before the scry even, so... The good top deck is... pretty bad for us. Oh yeah, trample 2, that's probably instant lethal actually. I guess not quite. Lose our whole board to kill 2 of their creatures. And then die next turn, because we don't have enough stuff left. Yeah, we can't double block and kill security without losing 2 creatures on the double block. I could double block Erranks and only lose 1 creature. And then just 1 creature in the ankle biter, so I still have 1 creature left, but then the trample's just gonna kill me. I'm gonna be at 1. I also die to like top decking a desert. Or to them top decking a desert. So I mean I think being at 1 is just so low that I have to just lose all my creatures to be at 2 and then still die. I mean, die if we do, die if we don't, really. That is a very funny joke, Arena. We are 0-2 out of this round, just an incredible magical Christmas land kind of curve from our opponent with double Miriam, double Erranks. Gonna absolutely close out this round. We are 1-1 heading into round number 3. Not in the mood for this, Arena. We are 1-1 right now. If we lose one more round, we are out of contention for draft number 2, so we cannot be drawing hands like this. That is a forced mulligan and yet another very bad hand. We have at least 2 spells this time around, one of which is early, one of which is a finisher. So it is more flexible. It is a better hand. By a tiny margin. Probably is good enough with average draws. Because it has a good early play and a good late play, so Anything that fits near the middle of the curve is going to be a fine draw. More early plays are fine, more late game draws are fine. Yeah. Most non-land draws are good for this hand, so we will keep it. Omen Port Vigilante, turn 2 on the play from our opponent. That's the other part. That's now... We're going to be starting on the draw again for this round as well. So start the game behind. Yep, especially with the Omen Port Vigilante plus removal start from our opponent to slam in for 4 immediately. We did draw the Cactus to play the Cactarantula on turn 5 instead of turn 6, which is nice. Trade Keykeeper into a combat trick here. Nope, we actually kill it. Let's go. There's a Drover Grizzly, and now some Flood. The first land was already technically, like, potentially Flood of the Festering Gulch, but at least it was a desert for Cactarantula. The next couple is straight up Flood. There's Lassoed by the Law. Do like that. I feel Cactarantula is probably the better play for now, though, because it stops all of their attacks without removal from our opponent, whereas Lasso just stops one attack, whichever one I exile. If they do removal me, we're going to die quick, but we're also going to die if they removal me next turn, right? Like, if I Lasso this turn and then Cactarantula the turn after this, we die to removal whichever order we do it in. Okay, unless I top deck exactly Snakeskin Veil, then it would have been better to do it the other way around. Oh, this is interesting. Forgot this can hit Tether. That is actually really nice. I am 1 mana off from doing this and tumbleweeding and still having Snakeskin Veil. I still think I need to tumbleweed. Alright, plot of Stagecoach Security. That means a huge attack for them next turn, but I think we've got the blocks up for it if I just don't attack at all. It is 8 lands to 4 right now. We have considerably less spells to play around with than our opponent. But we're still alive, barely. And there's some more card draw to find more action. Oh, they're still on only 4 lands, dang. Alright. That's a yikes from me, dog. We head into their turn. We skip right on through that one. Premium removal from our opponent. We will draw the card. And then we will Snakeskin Veil. Still on 4 lands, all spells. But now we are drawing our spells. We've got a backup Cactarantula, which is good. The first one's drawn us a few cards here, which has been helpful. And we still really just need to turtle up right now. Keykeeper. When we're this low on life, Keykeeper actually is pretty good for our opponent. It's not great against Cactarantula because they let us draw a card each time, but if they can just tap both Cactarantulas and buff Wanted Griffin, we die. So they just use this during our end step, then they untap, use it during their turn, and kill us in the sky. So it's still good, even if it does give us 2 cards, maybe. Still at 5 life here, I really just can't afford to attack, especially now that they have a Sterling Keykeeper out. So we are really just at the mercy of the top deck war here, which is going quite bad so far. And we hit Cactarantulas, but in terms of quantity of spells versus lands, it's going pretty far in our opponent's favor. Well, rid of the non-reacher, the non-card drawer. Another Cactarantula. Another land. This one surveils, though, and gets rid of this other land. My, oh my. Are we dead on board now? We are. Really just dead on board, just flood into daubers. Okay, if they don't attack with everyone, then we're not technically dead yet. If I kill this Cactarantula with a 4-2 and a 1-1, that's definitely a better trade, but then I only have 2 creatures left against 5, and we're just so insanely likely to die on future swings. Like, I think I just need to leave the board as wide as possible, as painful as it is to lose a Cactarantula there. Yikes. There's a 7/7. Well, we drew a spell. 4 blockers to 6 is still dead on board, though. Especially because they have the Keykeeper mana up now, so they just tap the Mercenary, untap, attack with everybody, and we're dead. All right, on to game 2 of round number 3 here. Very disappointing start here. Not really anything we could have done. We just flooded quite a bit. We can throw Journey to Nowhere removal in here, some enchantment removal for that. We can throw... I guess that's it. We saw 2 enchantments, Journey to Nowhere and Buried in the Garden, plus they're green-white, so they could have more commons like Mystical Tether and stuff to have the removal in for, so fine with the Requisitioner raids, or just Requisition raids, period. And we are going to be on the play this time around, if that impacts how we want to sideboard. I'm just going to drop the Tumbleweed Rising. It feels like what I pretty much always do. The Sheriff's also not very good. Yeah, drop a Sheriff and a Rising for double raid seems pretty fine. Let's go for it. Head into game 2 of round number 3. Snap keep here. Got the turn 2 Erranks on the play with the Naturalist to make sure we keep hitting land drops and fill that grave for the Badlands revival a little bit. Okay, didn't hit a land here, but we can scry towards one thanks to the Erranks. There it is. Turn 3 from our opponent, there's the Mystical Tether for the Erranks. Pretty happy to have double requisition raids now. Here is the Patient Naturalist to hit land 4. There it is. It's a desert too. And we've got some big creatures for Badlands Revival. We've got a giant beaver in there now. They are going to plot a stagecoach thingy madooter. Here's Forlorn Flats. I can take the turn off to Dance of the Tumbleweeds to guarantee a Cactarantula or Badlands Revival next turn, but if Sterling Hound sees a basic land in the top 2, I can have the mana for these and have a Dance as a giant creature later. So I think it's a little better to try to hit a basic in the top 3, technically. Yeah. So now we hit the basic, then we draw Mystical Tether. So we just go basic into Cactarantula or Badlands Revival. Looks pretty good to me. There's the Stagecoach Security. And there's the Beast Bond Outcaster for the 2-for-1. That's it for now. I think I like Cactarantula a little better than Badlands Revival right now, so we could revival back even bigger stuff like Cactarantula plus Giant Beaver later. And this is a game that's gone on long enough, it's going to be like 100% who can play the biggest stuff. So we just want to sit here and wait till we can like dance as a gigantic creature. We can tether their giant elemental token, then pick it up with Nurturing Pixie. So I think we grind this one out nice and slow. That being said, I would have to skip casting anything this turn to do that. So we might still want a Badlands Revival early. I just kind of want to leave the Pixie Tether combo and the dance. It's like an instant speed Mystical Tether, but that's terrible against Snakeskin Veil, and they have 5 cards in hand here. You know, I guess I could just cast Tether, and then if they Snakeskin Veil, I Nurturing Pixie it back. It does feel pretty good to try to actually get damage in here. So we cast Tether, they Snakeskin Veil, I pick up the Tether with Nurturing Pixie. And if they don't Snakeskin Veil, then I actually get to attack this turn. Apply some pressure. Wasn't expecting to get to attack here, but here we are. Holy cow. Alright, that's not bad for us. I guess they get a kind of a clean kill on the Cactarantula with a double block here. So that we don't draw the card off of it, but I have the Badlands Revival, so that's fine. Alright, that looks good to me. Prosperity Tycoon. Sure. So they can trade like a token into our Sterling Hound or Bristlepack Sentry at this point. Yeah, Badlands Revival so we can attack with the Sentry this turn. Actually attack all 3 because they all have 2 power. They get a free chump with the Mercenary. Oh, they didn't go for it though. They could have soaked up some extra damage there as well while doing all that. Alright, there's a concession from our opponent. Just some flood from them on that one, so the complete flip-flop there. I could play Ariet's Lullaby on the draw here, but pretty happy with our double raid, because now we've seen Tether and Buried in the Garden and whatever the other card we saw was in game 1. Maybe we like drop a land for a Lullaby or something. I think I'm pretty happy to run things back though. Yeah. Let's head into game 3. This is not a snap keep, but it's a keep. I think we want the Pixie Lasso combo over just playing a 1/1 flyer. That could be wrong, because, like, we haven't seen very many tokens from our opponents, so I'm probably getting just extra greedy with the pixies in this matchup. Okay, Sterlinghound, you need to find land 4. We're gonna have some problems. Okay, sorry friends, you're not land 4. This is quite the curve. They didn't have a 2-drop, luckily. We would just be so dead if they also played a Trained Errangs turn 2 here. This is still not good. There's the land we needed. Lasso by the Law looks excellent here. Exile the 4-2 and have a 1-1 blocker for their 2 1-1s. Big way to start getting stable. Especially when we have the backup. They've got 3 cards left here. We're at 15. We got breathing room. Alright, let's go. We get to Bighorn holding up Snakeskin Veil. Feels great to me. No, I'm just trying to click the space bar to move through my turn. Holy cow. They're going to gain 2 and scry 1. Might have to play a 2-2 Nurturing Pixie. Just kill our Mercenary token to be able to trade into Holy Cow on blocks. Because otherwise that is a bit of a clock. I really don't want to lasso it. But I suppose we can always... Oh yeah, they have a Mercenary token too, so that's 3 damage a turn. Pretty big deal. Send in the Ankle Biter is interesting. I guess, I mean, I'm just going to take it, but now we get to send in Bighorn? Freely? Alright. That's pretty cool by me. I mean, what do we want to do here? I feel like Pixie picking up a lasso that gives them back a Holy Cow is really not that bad if they do end up playing like a good bomb or something. So I'm just going to fully lasso this cow rather than trying to like trade Pixie off into it. The one problem with this is now the Bighorn is going to trade into the Ankle Biter. I don't have the lasso to deal with the Ankle Biter anymore, but I've got a wide enough board to just attack with all this other stuff. No! They're just going to tether the Bighorn. Well, that's fine. It was already going to die to an Ankle Biter, so... I don't hate that. That gives us a great Requisition Raid. If we draw into either copy of those, Requisition Raid is, like, completely game-changing here. Our first strike attacks are pretty good. They have to block with the whole board. Yeah, that's kind of nasty. Having to saddle 2 is a little rough. But I think the scry is worth it. I might have to Nurturing Pixie the Errangs back up to have more blockers after this. But I need to scry. Yeah, we really need to not be flooding again. So let's ditch land 8. I guess I could always pick up a lasso and then re-exile. If I wanted to pick up a lasso and then exile the tether instead and leave them the Holy Cow or the Tycoon, but those both seem not very good for me. Journey to Nowhere's the draw. Where are our sideboard options? Yeah, Vigilante's absolutely massive here, so goodbye, sheep. Okay. Sentry trades into the Vigilante if nothing else. do this and take 2 on the crackback unless they have another removal spell to kill Sentry. If they do, we're kind of just gonna die. So maybe I should have held 1 mercenary back. Because if they go like removal spell plus buff Vigilante, that's horrible. If it's just Vigilante, then we just block, right? Giant Beaver, uh-oh. And I have no good blocks next turn no matter what. I take 6 on board. Let's put them dead to Top Deck Desert or Requisition Raid. I mean, they've been dead to Top Deck Requisition Raid for like 5 turns. Not literal lethal, but Requisition Raids have buffed like our 5 creatures on board and save a Bighorn. Would have been so insane. So now they are dead to a lot of stuff. Top Deck Desert, Top Deck Requisition Raid. They Top Deck Buried in the Garden. So now basically the only shot is Top Deck Requisition Raid, right? Badlands Revival, is that good enough? Yeah, Badlands Revival, Lassoed by the Law, Mystical Tether, Double Requisition Raid. There's probably like 7 or 8 cards that keep us in this game. We have 22 cards left. 33% chance, come on. Hey, that's a goodie. Do they have an artifact out right now? No. Okay, so we can get back our Nurturing Pixie. Pick up a Lasso, give them back the Holy Cow to Lasso one of their other cards. I think it's probably better to just get rid of the Mystical Tether, right? And then we have a 4/5 Vigilance against the 4/4 Vigilance, as well as a couple 2/2s. I mean, I guess if we pick up the fairy and they don't find a way to kill it, they're dead next turn. Because it'll be, I can make it a 3/3, but I still need to survive their next attack. It's certainly the ballsier line by a lot. Yeah, and I don't think... I guess I'd have to like pick up my own mercenary, because if I pick up one of these, they have too many creatures, they just kill me, or they gain life so they don't die on the crackback. Yeah, no, I'm just going to go for the safer. Kill that, put a counter on all our creatures afterward. And then we pass. All right, they can just force the trade here. Yeah, that's rough. Mercenaries are putting in work this game for everybody. Oh my god. Oh my god. Just send 1 in. Awesome. I'm so glad I waited. If we showed them the like 9/9 here, there's no world in which they block. I guess we could have forced the block though, right? If I attacked with both, I guess I could have tutored Desert to kill them. Yeah, never mind, that was not completely right. I found the second best line. Killing the Death Toucher before they know that they need it to kill a bigger creature was definitely good. But it would have been better to just attack with everybody. If they don't block, kill them. And if they do block, well, we still killed the Death Toucher. I just wanted to hold 1 creature back because I was nervous. Whew. All right. I mean, Some top deck wars in this matchup, and we just managed to get slightly luckier than our opponent. We are officially 2-1, which means the stress levels are going through the roof here, because we have a 4th round to play with this deck, and that is the deciding round. A win takes us into draft number 2, and a loss kicks us out of the event just up 2,500 gems. But we did make it to day 2 on our first run, so the fact that no matter what we are up a good amount of gems is pretty nice. So we've got that as a consolation prize no matter what, but I'm really in it to win it here. I would love to draft again, get to head into game 2 and try to compete there. So I'm going to fight very hard, and we'll see how it's going to wrap up as we head into the final battle, the final boss of our Arena Open Day 2 draft. We do get to be on the play for game 1 of the final round, and we have excellent mana fixing. The one issue we have is we don't get to play the Erranks on turn 2, so it's a little bit of a slower hand. I still think it's definitely a keep. Could Pylons turn 1 and just mill anything that isn't exactly a Plains, I guess. That was an option. But I like getting the tap land out of the way in case we draw like our other 2-drops, our 2-mana 3/3 in green or anything like that. Mystical Tether's the next draw. We'll draw into that, then we'll drop probably the Erranks down, right? Because we want to play that and then something to saddle it the turn after. Ooh, Burrow Fiend. Kind of want to immediately tether, but I actually can't. Have to wait till I have 4 mana to actually tether. I guess Naturalist can block the Burrow Fiend, which is something, if they don't saddle it up and find a creature. But if they find one creature, we can't block it anyway. Let's just get the Erranks down. I'm going to start going for some scry attacks. If we can. Voracious Varmint. Alright, they are pre-sideboarded against our Mystical Tether. That's rough. Alright, they didn't mill any creatures. There's another Erranks. It's pretty cool. Play the Naturalist first, in case we hit a tap land. We did not hit a tap land. We play a forest then, holding up a Snakeskin Veil, and we are going to scry. Cactarantula is a great draw. That is very castable next turn. There's a gold pan for some mana fixing. Also a little +1/+1 equipment. There's a Requisition Raid target, by the way. It's not a good one, though. We don't really want to just kill a +1/+1 equipment. I'm just trying to keep a tally. That'll make our Requisition Raid slightly better if we do see a bunch of like Mystical Tethers that make us want to put it anyway. And them having like a gold pan as well can make it so it's a little more consistent. They do choose to slam down a Bloodseeker here so that they can mill the card we just surveilled to the top, which is sad. Cactarantula is gone, but that does mean we can just revive it next turn still. It's pretty decent too. I don't have a great second permanent to revive alongside it, but getting a Cactarantula on the board still feels pretty good. Okay, if I want to tether something, I kind of have to just tether Varmint. So that's a little bit of a concern to think of here. I guess we don't. Probably just do cast the Badlands Revival. That looks fine. Do I get a scry attack in again? I don't think so. I think I just sent in as a 3/1 and hold up an actual blocker here. Battlefield. And Baron Bertram Greywater. Whenever they play tokens, they also get a 1/1 lifelinker, and they can sacrifice anything to draw a card for 2 mana. It's pretty spicy. They have the 1 mana up as well to blow up our Mystical Tether if we exile Bertram. But then we've still basically exiled the Varmint, so it's not like the Tether's doing nothing. Especially if we do it at instant speed. We can remove it as a blocker even if they immediately blow up Tether, right? Actually, no, that's not true. But hey, now they don't have the mana up to do that, so now we could. We can Lassoed by the Law or Mystical Tether. Sure, they can Varmint it next turn, but we would still remove a blocker for a turn, which is a big deal. Particularly, again, if we do it at instant speed here. So I kind of like holding up the instant speed Tether and sending in Cactarantula. Alright, cool. Yeah, this looks great to me. We can permanently kill the Bloodseeker, temporarily kill the Burrow Fiend, and permanently kill the Varmint, because they sack the Varmint to save the Burrow Fiend. The only thing that could have made that better was just having any white land so that I could still have Snakeskin Veil up while I do that. I obviously can't Snakeskin Veil like the Mystical Tether, but having it up to keep the Cactarantula nice and safe feels pretty nice, yeah. Okay, so they can double block Cactarantula with a 4/5 and a 2/2. Little sad. I could Lasso Baron Bertram. They respond by Varminting the Lasso, but then they just still don't have enough blockers for Cactarantula either way. And I can do that while holding up Snakeskin Veil. I also just have enough threats. It might be better to just let the Cactarantula trade into a couple cards and then just keep playing threats. So I still have a Lasso for something scary from them later. That feels reasonable to me, I think. Just have Cactarantula clear out Baron. Okay, Chump plus kill the Tether is fair. Or Chump draw a card. Chump kill Tether it is. Okay, let's just get threats down then. Go Sentry plus Erranx hold up Veil, or I can just play Bighorn hold up Veil. Bighorn seems a little better. Alright, Bucolic Ranch, they get to dump a bunch of mana into that. If they ever have a mount on top, they get to draw into it. Oh, and they get to scry every time too. Oh, yeah. Alright, that's better than I thought. They don't want the card, they can always dump it on bottom. So it even does something, even if you have no mounts in your deck. It just sits there and scries whenever you have extra mana. I can definitely Lasso Baron now, by the way. Just realized. A single 2/2 blockers feels really nice if they don't have their own Snakeskin Veil. Or instant speed enchantment removal. They have instant speed enchantment removal. They could blow up the Lasso before the ability resolves so that Baron will stay equipped. But alternatively, if they have instant speed enchantment removal, they can wait for it to resolve. That way, they have a surprise blocker. Like, they wait for me to declare attacks, and then they save Baron. Saddle 2? Yeah, saddle 2. This is also saddle 2. Yeah, so I can only saddle one of these. I feel like spitting out tokens is slightly better. Although, no. The Scry is still decent, and if I saddle Bighorn instead of Arynx, Arynx doesn't get to attack well. So we'll saddle the Arynx instead. I've got 3 more creatures in my hand. That Sheriff of Safe Passage actually does seem pretty legit. I only have 1 white source, which is bad, but holy cow, I don't know how that thing keeps surprising me. Shocked every time. Double block Bighorn is their best block on board. I don't think we need Snakeskin Veil bad enough to not just cash it in to kill both their creatures and save Bighorn. Or Arynx, either way. Yeah, no, I think this is more than worth it. Some graveyard recursion off the top, maybe? Looks like they've got a lot of that. They milled a Rutstein earlier and stuff. Oh, yeah. That's pretty huge. One last job, picking up a Rutstein. And a Gold Pan. And then Rutstein picks up another card. They are at 9 life, though. One mana Bloodseeker thanks to Rutstein. I forgot it makes them cheaper, too. Mill me again. Sterling Hound is the draw. Okay, so anything with 3 power or more can declare an attack here perfectly fine. They're at 9, 2 cards left in their hand. I think we're still ahead enough in cards to just keep the pressure on. So we send in the Arynx, the Cactarantula, the Bighorn. Let's Sterling Hound first, though, so that we can saddle both of our mounts. Don't Bloodseeker me again, please. I will be supremely sad. Actually, I should just play both of my creatures first, right? So I can saddle both up. We actually just want the highest power. Let's just play another Arynx. Well, I guess Naturalist doesn't get to attack well on this board, so... Oh, if I Mercenaried it would. Never mind. Yeah, that was dumb. Mercenary onto Naturalist, then that also gets to send in. That was a big miss. Always bad with the Mercenaries. I really like our Exile removal in this matchup. They've got a Voracious Varmint to worry about, but exiling instead of killing is nice against the Rutstein and the one last job. If we have any other graveyard hate, that'd be pretty nice. I think I'd rather kill the Lifelinker here, because also putting Rutstein in their grave means maybe better graveyard recursion. I'm killing a 2/2 lifelink over a 3/2, basically, because the gold pan is what's making Rutstein a 4/3. It's not the natural stat line. Arbristle Bandit. It's the 1/1 mana dork. And they have to pass here. Put them down to 1 blocker should be very dead on board. But they have 2 cards in hand. Could be a sneaky snake veil. Nope. There's the concession from our opponent. All right. Weird game. I mean, we drew a ton of spells there, which was really helpful. We drew like 6 lands all game and then all spells, all gas from there. So just some really nice draws, getting a lot of action going there. So this matchup, again, really love our exile removal. As for artifact destruction, we still only saw the gold pan. We didn't see any enchantment removal from them. I don't think it would be terrible to side in like one requisition raid. Because white's best removal at common and uncommon is all enchantment based, and they've got a good chunk of white in there, so they very well could have good enchantments to kill. It's still a bit gambly for me when we've only seen a gold pan, which is not really worth a raid. So let's see if we had random graveyard hate, but I really don't think we do. I think we're just running it back in this matchup, really, until we gather more information. Yeah, I kind of like everything we have right now for this matchup currently. Yeah. Let's call it a deck. Run it right back. All right, here we are for game 2 on the draw, obviously. We get a turn 2 Prairie Dog here. Or we could Erranks first to do some scrying. We've got pretty good mana. We have all of our colors thanks to Conduit Pylons. We do need a natural green source to not have to play green spells off curve, but there's no green spells until turn 5 with this hand. So it is a perfectly reasonable start. Opponent has taken 1 mulligan. We are going to keep on the draw. It's a 2-lander, which has a little bit of a risk as well, but on the draw it's slightly less risky getting those extra draw steps. Well, the extra draw step towards the next land. Okay, there's the green source, and we are set for life. Stubborn Burrow Fiend. Would I rather set up lifelink to make it hard for them to race us, or start scrying here? Because I'm going to be casting a spell every turn. This is not going to get any +1/+1 counters. You know, since they're on the play, I'm going to get the lifelink down here. That'll help prolong the game a little bit. We've got really good late game with Bighorn and Revival. And Dance of the Tumbleweeds, if we can do that for 6. So let's play into the long game here and get some life gain, get some breathing room right off the bat. If nothing else, like trade gain 2 is fine here. Congregation Grift from our opponent, that is absolutely massive. They have 2 mounts on board already, so that attacks as a 3-power flying lifelinker. That's, yeah, an incredibly big issue. So we need to find removal for that. We need, like, Tether on the top right now. Let's see. That is not a Tether on the top. Perfectly happy to draw into that, but my problem here is I might want to cast Dance of the Tumbleweeds early, in which case it doesn't matter if I keep it on top or not. If I don't cast Dance of the Tumbleweeds, I will want to draw into the land. The only thing I can do if I don't cast Dance of the Tumbleweeds is play a 3/1 on the ground, which doesn't help deal with the Griff still. Yeah, since we're not dealing with the Griff, let's set up the mana here, I think. The green-black, right? Well, no, we've only got 1 white source right now. Do we have white-black? No, we don't. Shoot. Do want to get the ping, but I think white source is probably better. Oh, snap. White source lets me do it untapped? I didn't know Dance lets you get an untapped land. That's insane. Not that I'm going to play a Pixie here. Well... yes, I mean, I've already cast a spell, so it's not like Prairie Dog's going to do anything, but... I don't really have ways to get value off of the Enter the Battlefield effect. I just use it to make them 2/2 flyers, and it's going to be a long time before we're doing it that way, so might as well get it onto the board. Have slightly more creatures ready to saddle. There's a Voracious Varmint. Buff the Burrow Fiend. One creature engraved makes it a 3/3. Again, Badlands Revival in hand. I don't hate double blocking Burrow Fiend here. Makes the Griff worse. It's a 2-for-1. Whether we 2-for-1 ourselves into the Burrow Fiend or 2-for-1 into a combat trick, but hey. Sheriff is not great here. I guess if I plot it and play an Erynx, then we get to play it as a 3/3 next turn, which isn't bad. But I can also just play a single Bighorn, and that's immediate great impact on the board. I'd rather just do that. Pass turn from our opponent. They have 3 power up to block Bighorn. Let's get a 2-power creature down to saddle up the Bighorn. I think we want a Naturalist when we have Revival in hand. Hoping for any untapped lands so we can play Erynx as well. Yeah, those are untapped lands. Alright, Bighorn into combat trick here. And then we can Revival Bighorn as the biggest creature, since all we milled is lands anyway. Put Bighorn on board and Prairie Dog to hand. Seems like a fine use of a Badlands Revival. Nope, just gonna bounce off, give them a little bit of life. That is fine too. Unless they have the desert removal spell for -3/-3. Could that be what's going on? Oh, clear shot. There are like 50 different removal spells because all of the different crimes, so it's hard to know exactly what's coming up. I saw black mana. I saw an instant. I knew that they needed 3. So I was like, -3/-3 off Desert's due? They have 1 desert on board? Rutstein. Do they have a good card engrave? Yeah, they do. They've got Burrow Fiend. Slightly nasty. Actually, really nasty with Congregation Griff. I am once again asking for our removal for the Griff. Although all our removal is enchantments, so we need to deal with Varmint first. Hopefully they don't have much more Graveyard Recursion, because Goldvein Hydra's very big. It's a gigantic XX. Speaking of very big, here's the gain 3 every turn coming at us. Cactarantula's the draw. Well, don't see myself playing anything much better than that. Could have played Cactarantula and used it to saddle the Erynx to get the Scry and not risk Erynx dying to Rutstein, but the Erynx-Rutstein trade is not that bad. And more importantly, we get to hold Cactarantula up as a blocker here to keep the 3/6 flying lifelink off of us. Keep them from gaining more. Doesn't keep the Burrow Fiend off of us. 6/5, that's going to fully trade into Cactarantula if we do that, so I think I'm just jumping. I could also take it. We're still at 18 right now. With a Sheriff of Safe Passage in hand, that's actually slightly tempting. Actually, we'll leave this on board for our Sheriff, I think. And there's Hard Bristle Bandit. 1 card left in hand. We will never know what that one is. Cast the Sheriff before we do anything else. And then how do they kill Cactarantula? They need 5 power. They have to block with everybody. And I get to kill Rutstein and Griff. Yeah, Cactarantula's a good attacker still, but then we don't have the flying blocker for the Griff, so I guess we don't have good blocks afterward. That's the problem. Alright, well, let's just Sheriff before anything here. Right, do I even Nurturing Pixie too? Sheriff would be a 5/5. Making Sheriff a 6/6 is kind of a big deal. 6/6 against Burrow Fiend, because that's already a 5/5. If they get one more creature, it's going to be like a 7/7 or something. Yeah, I guess. Can I pick up anything and do this? 3 mana to cast Sheriff. I could pick up a 2-drop, but I can't pick up Eric's because I don't have enough white sources to do that, so no, I can't. All right. They hit me for 3 and gain 3. I think I can send in Cactarantula still. Okay. Now it's going to be 10 to 16 after their Griff swing. And I still think just any of our enchantment removal spells can win us this game through the Varmint, because we can revival one back to our hand. Oh, and Varmint doesn't do anything if we kill a token with an enchantment removal spell. Although, if we kill a token with enchantment removal, we're obviously not killing the Congregation Griff anymore, and that is the problem that we're having here. But now I've got a 6/6 to start attacking with, so I can hold the Cactarantula off to keep the Congregation Griff off of us, and then if I kill... Perfect. Oh my god. Yeah, I was going to say, now if I kill the 7/7, I just keep attacking with the 6/6 and blocking the Congregation Griff. There we go. Took a little while, but we found one of our enchantment removal spells. Oh, they can still Varmint in response. Dang it. Well, then we Badlands Revival and still do it. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't even work on a token, technically, because the way that they made those work. I did start playing in 2009 when they all worked like Oblivion Ring in the past, where if you did it in response, the card would still just be exiled forever. Well, it's a bummer. That means no attacks. Well, I can poke for 1. I do still get the Mercenary. That's something. Oh, no way. They have double Congregation Griff? So that's 7 toughness now? It's still only 4 power, right? So I still get to block, but they go up to like 19 here. Okay, well. They have to be able to saddle up both of them to sneak some damage through, which leads to big counterattacks from us. Well, they do send in the 7/7. All right, well. Now I can Badlands Revival Sheriff. And it's just, it'll be even bigger now, right? Probably. Pick up the Sheriff. Pick up the Lasso. Yeah, it is slightly bigger now. Speaking of slightly bigger, thanks to the Mercenary being on board now, we can Eric's attack. Get the Scry. The only way they kill this is by losing their Congregation Griff. They can block with the Griff and a 1/1 to kill it. But I kill the Griff. Cool. I wasn't paying attention to where they scried there. I missed the blurb. I think they scried to the bottom again. Big Burrow Fiend. They're going for a huge swing here. Well, they must have take up the shield off the top. +1/+1, lifelink indestructible for the turn. They can only save one of these two. Unless they top decked like something that combat tricks twice, this block still works fine for us. And if they did, at least we'll know what that is for future games. I think it's going to be like take up the shield here, and they're going to save one of these. And they probably have to use it on Congregation Griff, which already has lifelink, so they don't get extra lifelink value there. Oh, it's not? Uh-oh. Is it Graveyard Recursion then? They're going to pick up a Griff? I don't know. I'm assuming we're about to find out, because if it's not something they're going to cast right now, it must be bad. Oh, it's just murder? Opponent just wanted to get aggro there, I guess. Fair enough. I mean, with the lasso on the Griff, they're down to a 3/2 and a 1/1. I don't even need to lasso the Griff when it's the only mount they have left. Maybe just missed something. I don't know. Maybe I just missed something? I don't know what that was all about, but I'm pretty happy here. I'm a little low on life to play this bold, but I'm still gonna do it. Could lasso plus hound instead of Cactarantula. So I can double spell here, and then I have all the blockers I need to block everything on board. Yeah, I mean, not having a backup lasso is a little sketch, but this lets me just pile on for as much damage as possible and play it pretty safe. I've still got Mystical Tethers in the deck. They scried to the bottom again. Playing off the top here. Send in the Rutstein. Can I just let it in? Because Rutstein can do good things in their graveyard. Looks like top deck Graveyard Recursion. They were looking through their whole grave, and then if Rutstein goes to grave, they get to Graveyard Recursion Rutstein and their next card. Just get extra value there. Could have chumped chumped with a 1/1. That would have been pretty fine. But I don't think we want to trade Sterling Hound off there. Against green-black. Yeah, it's the massive Graveyard Recursion. Gets the Varmint to get back the other Griff, too. It's pretty devastating. That might be enough to just get us. It can have a Cactarantula and a Tumbleweed as blockers. It's still pretty big blocks, so I do think I can afford to do that. And 2 blockers, 7 life. You know, I can probably full damage send this. Get a scry. Find another lasso. So I guess they probably just chump with Varmint, get the Griff back. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's the most important blocker. Please don't top deck removal for that, or I will be dead. And then here's the attacker. Treasure Dredger. It's a 2/2, basically. It's not removal. So they pass the turn. They're gonna get real tired of lassoed by the law, but I'm still not tired of it, so. Is this our third copy? This is technically only our second copy. Do we have 3 in this deck? Yeah, we have 3 copies in this deck. This is technically only our second copy. We just used Graveyard Recursion on it earlier, which is so rude. Guess I don't need to do this pre-combat, do I? How do they kill a 6/6? 3/2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have to block with like everybody and still lose like everybody. I don't think there's much point in buffing that. A single buff on Errinx and then Scry feels good though. We need the single buff to be able to kill a Griff on an attack. Oh my god. Alright. Yeah, that's a good draw too. Thank you, Trained Errands. Very cool. Chump from the Hard Bristle Bandit. Take 4 looks like the play. And now that we know we're top decking Mystical Tether, I might as well exile a Congregation Griff, because it's not like I can cast Lasso by the Law at instant speed anyway. This way we're not dead to top deck removal. Baron Bertram Greywater. So now every time I kill something, they draw a card. Oh! The Baron Bertram Treasure Dredger combo for lifelinking chumps? So we're going to instant speed Mystical Tether Baron instead of the Griff then. At this point. Shoot. Yeah, that's pretty real. This is any token. Yeah, 1 or more tokens, period. Still need to leave pretty decent blocks at 7 here, so I don't think I am mercenarying up a Sterling Hound. Get the Scry, let's send in the 6/6. And hold up the Reach. We wait for them to pay life, and what are these draws, baby? Wait for them to pay life, and then we exile Bertram in response. Sack the Treasure Dredger, lose the Bertram too. Double block the Trained Errands. They are over. It's nonsense. Yup. First strike away that lifelink then. And they're at 3 life now. Passing the turn, top decking Lassoed by the Law. With a much wider board. They scry with that Bucolic Ranch. Down to the bottom, drop a land, drop a beaver. That is not enough to survive. That is lethal on board. We send in the team. And that is 3-1 for our day 2 draft number 1. of the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Open. We have made it all the way to Draft 2, where there will be cash prizes on the line. I think our worst case scenario now is ending up quite a bit ahead in gems, which is lovely. And we get to draft again, try out a new deck, maybe a new strategy, and see if we get to play some sweet bombs in that one. But we had a nice, consistent deck this time around, and that was enough to compete pretty well for the 3-1 record into day 2, draft number 2. One final look at this deck. Again, I'm pretty happy with how I drafted and played. I don't think I did anything horrifically wrong at any point. I think we just had a nice solid draft, had some nice solid plays. Nothing incredible for sure. No like genius lines or genius drafting strategies or anything. It was a bit of an on-rails draft. We didn't see any great bombs or anything, but we saw great white removal running around and some solid green creatures, so put your peanut butter with your jelly and get a nice consistent green-white deck. Nothing super duper special going, but a solid deck can be enough to get you into that next draft. So let's claim our token. Let's check out that day 2 draft 2 event, because that will be tomorrow's video for you all. That'll be very exciting. That is going to be another 5,000 gems as the reward no matter what. So we are at a net positive 5,000 gems out of the event because I paid 5,000 to enter, already got 5,000 back from the day 1 event. Now we're getting another 5k back, which is pretty nasty. If we win another game, we're up 15,000 gems. And if we manage to win at least 2 rounds before we lose a single round, that is where we could get some cash prizes tomorrow. So that's going to be a really, really exciting draft. I'm super pumped for that. And no matter what happens, we are far in the money, not literal cash money, but far in the gems regardless. So should be an exciting time. I had a great time with today's deck, and hopefully we can do the same tomorrow. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for the Arena Open Day 2, Draft number 2.